Hi, Pavithra. How are you?
Hey Judy, I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So, Pavithra, can you share a bit of your background, your health condition?
Sure. So my background in terms of my health was that I was running low on energy in general, just wasn't feeling myself for a while,
Right.
and it all probably was because I've been chronically anemic.
Oh, you
My
have been. Okay.
hemoglobin, yeah. So my hemoglobin has always been on the lower side. And I did what everyone else would do, which is supplement with iron, and manage through food, consuming good iron-rich food. But what I was noticing was that it was not really helping much. As soon as I stopped the supplementation, my iron levels would dip back, energy levels would be impacted, and just it was not a sustainable method as is. So that was my primary health condition. But then when you're anemic and you're running low on energy, you tend to have a lot of secondary symptoms,
Right.
and that's one thing. Years of going through that is what led me to look for a sustainable way to manage my condition.
So, how long did you have this anemia then? How many years?
For at least 7 to 8 years.
Oh,
Um,
wow, that's quite a
yeah,
long time.
yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about my anemia is it wasn't severe. So you're always, on the lower side of iron, but as long as you're supplementing, you're still fine.
Mhm.
Along the border of what you would consider anemic.
Mhm.
But then if you stop the supplements, that's when, the iron would dip lower. And, I think women in general tend to have lower hemoglobin than males. At least that's what I've heard.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I was in that spectrum.
So, what did Western medicine do for you? What did they prescribe you before?
So whenever I do this annual routine, I have an annual routine of getting my hemoglobin levels checked, just to
Mhm.
keep an eye on where I am and how low or how normal my hemoglobin levels were. What I discovered through that process is over the years, sometimes it would, when I've not been diligent about my diet or my supplements, it would be low, like
Right.
really low. And just you, and then my doctor would either have me do more supplements, or the other extreme would be to have iron induced into the bloodstream through IV. So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah, so that was a kind of um, I would say the ultimate solution
Yeah.
to see some quick relief, right? So I had iron sent through IV a couple of times,
Oh,
but then
wow.
it's not a very comfortable thing to have iron sent into your bloodstream directly. So that's pretty much all Western medicine could tell me. And
Mm.
now, did I go back and check why I have been anemic for a while? Yes. So there was a lot of blood work done to see if there are any root cause that is leading me to have low iron. But all my other exploratory blood work came back looking normal. And this is over the years. Like, I've been to multiple Western medicine doctors, and
Yeah.
none of them could tell me why it was low, other than pointing it towards nutrition. But then, food wise, my diet, we eat at home, freshly cooked meals thrice a
Food.
day,
Yeah.
and the food is really what one would describe as wholesome. So it was not really giving me answers.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you were hitting a lot of dead ends on that
Yeah.
path.
Yes.
So how did you meet Dr. Wu?
So while I was on, and this happened during the year when the pandemic um,
Yes.
kicked in. That's 2020. I had a lot of time on my hands
Yeah.
since all of us were working from
Right.
home, and there was lesser travel involved. And I just wanted to utilize that time to really address long-standing health issues and do better for myself, just to bring back my energy and just months and months of sitting at home, no exercise. It just took me
Yeah.
to a place I haven't been before in terms of energy, which was really, really low. I was just not feeling myself. My hair was falling off.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I just felt like the symptoms were getting stronger and stronger. And that's when I was looking for some way of sustainable and holistic healing methodology outside of Western medicine. And, my roots go back to India. So, we do have Ayurveda, which is again another holistic healing science.
Right.
And it's almost a pretty much a way of life. So, and I've adapted that into my lifestyle in many ways. But I was also keen to see what I had in terms of immediate access here in the US. And that's when I was just doing my research online. And since I'm based out of Connecticut, I was looking for holistic healing practitioners here in Connecticut. And that's when I came across Dr. Wu's website. And then I did a lot of research, and that when you have a lot of time on your hands, you tend to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, very
Remember,
quickly.
yeah, very quickly. So I remember spending some of my hours when I should have been sleeping just on his website, and watching the documentary,
Yes.
Dr. Wu, and reading through his testimonials. And he was just like a 15-minute drive away from where I live.
Oh,
And
wow. Yeah.
that's when, when I woke up the next morning, I called his office and made an appointment.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
So you sounded like you did a lot of research. It's almost like you knew who he was based on the
Yes.
documentary and all the research on the website. I mean,
Yeah.
he probably revealed, pretty much who he is and what he can do.
Yes.
So, so how did the entire consultation go?
So when I met Dr. Wu, obviously, the minute I walked into his office, I knew how different it was from a typical doctor's office, because it was, here we had a very down to earth, approachable gentleman who
Yeah.
obviously looked really wise, and all the experience simply showed in the way he communicated, or, the way he interacted with his patients.
Mhm.
And when I walked in, Dr. Wu, I kind of knew what he would do in terms of diagnosis, which is, look at the pulse, because that's what they do in Ayurveda too.
Right.
In ways. And when he looked at my pulse, I didn't have to say too much about what my symptoms were,
Yeah.
because he already knew.
You already knew. I know. I know. So
Yeah, just
did,
based on the pulse, he started describing what he's
yeah.
seeing. And he told me, okay, I see that your energy levels are really impacted. And he calls it chi, right? So he said, your chi is really low. And then he was able to assess, how my different channels were, the stomach channel, the liver, spleen, and all of that. And his diagnosis was that the stomach and spleen channels really needed help.
Mm,
And that's when, he sent me home with 12 bundles of, little packets of herbs that he had handpicked for me. And, that process, I was expecting, to receive herbs, but I thought they would be some kind of a powdered form. But he told me, you absolutely can get the powdered form too, but just that I want you to start seeing results immediately. And that'll involve some work, which is, taking these herbs, putting them in a pot of almost 1.5 to 2 liters of water,
mhm.
and cooking them for almost 2 hours every morning.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and, cooking them twice, which meant it would be beyond 2 hours, almost 3 hours. And then straining that tea and then drinking the tea throughout the day. And, it was a leap of faith, because when you see a packet full of herbs that you don't know much about, you really must trust, the
Yeah.
person who's prescribing that to you. And just based on the questions that I was asking and Dr. Wu's responses, I was confident that, they were safe to consume. And he was very diligent about explaining what each herb does and why he was prescribing it to me. And most of it, having grown up seeing herbs in my life, I was able to at least identify a few of them, like, the ginseng ginger, the job steers, and other herbs that he was prescribing. And it all felt very familiar and things that I've seen before. So it was not intimidating at all. So I went
Right.
back home with packets of all these herbs. And for the next 2 weeks, my routine involved getting up, cooking these herbs every day, straining the tea. And, it's kind of bitter, but
Yeah.
I developed a taste for it 2 days into
Yeah.
having it. And then over the next 2 weeks, I really, really saw an improvement in how I was feeling. Um,
And how you're sleeping, you said?
no, in how I was feeling energy wise.
Feeling. Okay. And your
Yeah,
energy level.
energy
Okay.
wise. Yeah, because
Wow.
I
In
was,
two
uh,
weeks.
yes, just 2 weeks, and I didn't have to wait until the end of 2 weeks. I was seeing improvements incrementally every single day. So, I was confident that something's working in my favor. And then at the end of 2 weeks, when I met Dr. Wu again, I was a different person. And I say that with a lot of, you know, with a lot of confidence because I simply knew how I was walking into his office that day. And at the end of 2 weeks, I just felt like my digestion was better. And I when I woke up each morning, it was because I really wanted to wake up. Not I was not fighting my impulse to stay asleep.
Right.
I
Right.
was feeling a lot fresh, and I just felt like a new person, and it was just this tea, nothing else. I didn't have to do any exercise. He did give
Yeah.
me, he did give me some um, food recommendations, which is to avoid dairy and gluten if I could,
Yes.
stay away from wheat and dairy just because it has a lot of mucus inducing properties, which might work against what my body was trying
Mm,
to do with the herbs. And that's the only thing I eliminated from my diet. And I say about exercise because, Dr. Wu also um, teaches Tai Chi and qigong, right?
right.
So,
Right.
and he did give that as an option to me, but my physically, I was not feeling at a point where I felt ready to introduce, another form of exercise. So the first 2 weeks, was simply the herbs, and I continued to do that for at least 2 more months. And at the end of it, when I went back for my blood work after years of having seen my hemoglobin below the average levels,
Hmm.
it was back.
That's
And
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, it was back. And this is, I think, the last time I saw the levels that I did see in my blood work was when I was a teenager. So uh,
Wow.
it was a real difference in and what's beautiful about this is he was not treating anemia. He was not treating me for low hemoglobin. He was just treating me to feel whole as a person, like just looking at my energy levels. And the beauty of that is he's not really addressing symptoms,
Yes.
just taking you closer to your ideal state of being,
Right.
which is disease free, which is feeling 100% yourself and feeling
Right.
like you're at the best possible version, physically and health wise. So when he did that, I started noticing that in addition to anemia, my hair was no longer falling off. I was feeling good, and I could, I no longer had those dips in energy you feel around 4 p.m., 5 p.m. No craving for sweets. A lot of these tiny things that we just push to the
Yeah.
back burner, a
Yeah.
lot of that had been addressed. This was 2 months into following the protocol that he had set up for me. And then I've seen Dr. Wu endlessly since then. I just look forward to all of our consultations, and we've become friends over the years.
That's
And
wonderful.
I've taken back many of my friends, colleagues, and anyone I meet for the first time, and we discuss health in any form. Dr. Wu comes up in our conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like gold.
Each goal, yes. And I,
Yes.
make it a point to just let people know because, not many of them understand what traditional Chinese medicine can do. And there's a lot of the fear of unknown because you need someone who can build that confidence, who can at least establish what this medicine can do differently from Western medicine. And I
Yeah.
think Dr. Wu is the right person, the right spokesperson for TCM, as I see it. And there's a lot of power in sharing experiences
Hmm.
because, for me, most of what I knew about Dr. Wu was online. But
Mhm.
if I had access to maybe one of his patients who had met with him and worked with him in the past, it
Yeah.
I would have probably met him sooner. So yeah, that's why whenever I meet friends who have some health concerns, I always give them the option of discussing it with Dr. Wu first. uh,
Mhm.
and I've only heard great things. I've had at least 7 to 8 of my close friends who have met him, and they've become his patients too, and they've all seen major differences and
Mhm.
improvements in their own health conditions.
Yeah, no, you've spoken many, many golden nuggets about him and his philosophy and referring him to your friends. I mean, yeah, I mean it's very rich, and it's amazing that you started this herbal formula in 2 weeks and it's changed the level of your, what is it, hemoglobin,
Yeah,
and your energy level and your diet, everything. I mean, I think you're so on point. I mean, he really does see you as a whole person. And it's true. I think that's the successful part of his approach is he treats you your emotional being, your spiritual being, and even you just express this patient care. When you walked in, you felt that warmth and that vibration. And it's not that you're just another number in a doctor's office. And
oh, absolutely not.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of truth and consistency of what you see of him
Mhm.
on Google search on his website, and then you see him, he's really this way in real life. And
Yes.
that's a very, that's definitely assuring to know that.
Absolutely. And I must
Um,
add, Judy, one very important point. So, over the years, I've seen him, I continue to see him, not necessarily to resolve any particular health issue, but just to do a point check, just to see if everything's going the way it should go. And, he does a pulse check, and if he sees anything concerning, he lets me know. And, it's not always herbs. He just uses many different, sometimes he does acupressure, other times he uses the cupping, and other times it's the moxie version, I think,
yeah,
where he uses
Moxa, yeah,
the sticks that he uses. So different modalities of treatment that he has explored, um, depending on how I was feeling over the years. But one thing I must say, and I think this is so powerful for women who go through periods, on a monthly basis. Um, we've kind of learned to live with pain. It's
yeah.
so it's taken for granted that if you are on your period, you will have cramps, right?
Right.
And you will have a high flow. And you should just accept that this is the reality of being a woman. And then month on
Mm,
month of that pain, we just don't even talk about it anymore. I did not look to even solve that problem. I was just doing what I had to do. But when I spoke about the herbs and everything that I did with Dr. Wu, one of the side effects or the good side effect of having been on the herbs is I no longer had painful periods.
yeah. Yeah.
And that was, and no menstrual cramps. It just felt, I think the first month where I went pain free, I actually cried because I didn't know it was possible. Like I just thought
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
to live with cramps, right? But
Right. You accept it. Yeah. You think this is
you
part of being
accept
a
it.
woman. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then I actually to experience, a pain-free period without, just because you decided to take care of your health. And when you fix everything else, the body fixes itself. Like we just need to do the right things, and one symptom after another starts resolving itself when you keep at it. And I think that's very important to speak about, because so much of periods is linked to fertility, to your reproductive cycles, and and just women's health in general.
Yeah.
A lot of it even ties back to mental health in many ways. So just putting in that work, um, to take the time to take charge of your health,
Right.
it paid back, in ways that I did not anticipate. And pain-free periods was a big thing for me. And it continues to be that way. It wasn't just, 1 month
Yeah,
pain-free, but even after, I no longer take any herbs. But even
that's
now,
great. Yeah.
the pain did not return because I kept up with the good practices that I had built along the way. So,
Yeah, no, you expressed so many great points. And I think the main theme here is he talks a lot about restoring your chi, your energy, and basically bringing your body back into balance is the
yeah.
perfect harmony. It's like everything you said. You did the herbal formula, you got, really clean on your nutrition, your diet, and I think you're fixing these multiple areas of deficiency, and now your body has energy to heal itself and become whole again, and then it becomes interrelated to everything else like menstrual cramps and pain. And it's amazing how if you could just fix the core,
Mhm.
then everything is interrelated to the core, and it just sounds like you were in homeostasis where you're in perfect balance and everything was just healing itself, after
Absolutely.
you fix it. I mean, he talks a lot about Taoism in this practice because it's that similar philosophy. When you have too much yin or yang in your body, you do the opposite to kind of bring it back to the middle, to bring it back to the harmony and the balance of the body. Has So this entire experience that you've had with Dr. Wu, how do you feel you have changed as a person, or how do you see health, and how do you see approaching health now? Like do you see things totally different? I'm just, take me through your mind.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the mental shift, I think,
Yes.
is something that will last you a lifetime.
Mm,
The way I view at symptoms and disease and the state of my health in general is
mm-hmm,
very positive. To me, pain is no longer scary, right?
mm,
You don't, when your body um, puts you in pain, it's trying to tell you something.
exactly. I agree.
I actually, if something hurts, I know that it's a good thing because it leads me to find out why I am in pain and then resolve it instead of just masking the pain with a painkiller or, or wondering or just learning to live with it. So it's no longer scary. And
Right.
because health is, and you're in so much control of your own health, it's no longer intimidating,
Yes.
to,
Mm-hmm.
to take certain decisions. And I think that mental shift of just feeling in charge, and you're no longer dependent on other people because Dr. Wu, things like Gosha, and I think he really believes in enabling people to heal themselves. So that's
Yes,
what he
yes.
often tells me. Like when you go to Dr. Wu and he's hitting a certain pressure point
Mm-hmm.
to help you feel better, he
Mm-hmm.
always points out how you can do it yourself at home
Mm,
safely,
yeah,
right? Very few doctors do that. They would want their patients coming back
of
to the clinic,
course.
right?
So they can
Because
make more money from you.
yeah,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's a more business. But
Yeah.
Dr. Wu is so passionate about healing and just helping his patients out. He's always teaching them how they can take charge of their health themselves.
Right.
And so now, when I'm in pain, when my neck hurts a bit because of long hours of sitting in front of the screen, I no longer just, live with it. I quickly pick up a gua sha tool and go to town on my
Yeah.
neck
No, that's awesome.
and,
Yeah.
and immediately start feeling better. So small things like that, I think that has really impacted who I am in terms of, taking charge of my health. That is one big change. And the other thing is health is no longer, the absence of disease is not health. It's just health means feeling like you are functioning and working
Mhm.
at your highest potential.
Mm.
And there's always room to improve that, right? So,
That's a pretty enlightening thought you just said.
yeah,
Pretty, that's a very elevated thought that you just said.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I just feel that's how I feel about health in general now is,
Yeah.
are you operating at your highest potential, or is there something that could be better for you? And if there is something that could be better, how can you change that, right? So,
Mhm.
and just just that, I think, is something I learned from Dr. Wu, because at the peak of the pandemic, when the whole world was so scary,
Mhm.
he was so calm and collected,
Yeah.
because he knew exactly what to do, to avoid getting sick, in terms of the tools that he had in his own hands.
Yeah.
And he was also advising his patients what they can do to avoid getting sick.
Yeah.
um, right, so just that level of confidence that he had, and just looking at who he was as a person, it's something very aspirational for me, um, to be as calm and collected and knowledgeable as Dr. Wu. It's a very tall order, but you know,
Yeah. No,
we'll,
it's yeah, all the things you've said is very, very enlightening, and it is very true. I mean, Dr. Wu does teach you and equip you to self-heal. He has told me that, I like it when patients don't always have to come back to me. I'm not looking for long-term patients, whereas the traditional, modern medicine is always wanting you to come back, or they find another area of disease that they want to treat and keep you on this treadmill. But yeah,
yeah.
but Dr. Wu definitely equips you so you have the education and knowledge and the tools on how to heal and maintain your good health.
Mhm.
And I think in his mind, he probably thinks, oh, good, I treated this person. I don't need to see this person anymore. So, it's like a
Yeah.
success story for him as
Oh,
well,
absolutely.
you
And
know?
now that you bring up, I should tell you that it's been over a year since I last saw Dr. Wu. And in
Yes.
that time, I was pregnant last year and I just delivered a baby boy.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
Thank you. And I haven't gone back to Dr. Wu
Yeah.
during that duration, because you know how pregnancy is, it just keeps you
Yeah.
on your all the time. And just at the end, once my baby boy was here, I got back in touch with Dr. Wu just to let him know, that I had a baby, and I look forward to bringing him to meet Dr. Wu at some point. And he immediately gave me time to meet him.
Oh,
And
wow.
so last weekend, we were over
Yeah.
at his practice. I took my baby boy along, and I kind of told him, "Listen, this is a TCM baby, you know that, right?"
This is a TCM baby.
And he
You're
will
gonna
have some
you're
good
gonna
fun.
create a new trend here.
So, because
Yeah.
and I was telling him, and I say TCM baby because I had the most uneventful, smooth pregnancy.
Oh my
I had,
goodness.
yeah, I had no morning sickness. I just
Oh
sailed
my
through
goodness.
pregnancy, and I didn't expect it to be that non-turbulent. Like, you hear so much about morning sickness, and this was my first pregnancy ever. So I was expecting it uh, to be challenging in some ways,
Yeah.
but just dialing back into the nutrition, taking care of
Yeah.
ill health and everything. I don't know what worked, but it really did. And yeah, we had a few TCM jokes when we
That's
met last.
wonderful. Yeah, he really brings a lot of heart into medicine.
Absolutely, he does.
And it's in his aura, it's in the way he
Oh
treats
yes,
his patients. You don't see that often in, modern medicine at all. And I think it's he's really true to integrating his belief system of Taoism, his medical credentials and practice all together. It's truly integrated. And I think that's probably why also, the success rate is so high in all his patients and in his work. And he attracts even more because people can feel the genuine care and, the legitimacy of what he does. Yeah, so we're coming to an end, Pavithra. Do you have any words for words of gratitude for Dr. Wu? Any
oh, absolutely.
messages?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my friends, and I said I'd keep discussing TCM with many friends, and one of them asked me, what is so different about TCM that you don't see in modern medicine? And I And I used one sentence to describe it. And I told them that, medicine, as we know, is both an art and a science. And I
Mm.
think Western medicine focuses so much on the science part of it, which is, using chemicals and medicines and surgery and other things to help heal. And there is, the time and place for Western medicine too. But I think Dr. Wu really, really brings home the art part of it. He brings the human touch to medicine, and he brings so much of his heart into it. And I think he's an artist of medicine.
Yeah.
And just the way he approaches the patients and the way he goes about treating symptoms and disease, I think there's a lot of empathy in it. And
Mm.
and that's why I said he's no longer, we've crossed that bridge of, patient doctor relationship into actually being friends, which is such a rarity in this world,
It is.
right? So, and I have immense gratitude for not just what he did for my health, but also who he has helped me become in terms of a
Mm.
human being, because it just makes me a lot more empathetic, forgiving in many ways, not holding on to pain or baggage, just letting go of everything and just focusing um, on operating at your highest potential. Just doing that has helped improve many other areas in my life. And I think that's very powerful. You go to a doctor to treat one thing, but you end up reaping benefits in so many other different areas. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm most grateful to Dr. Wu for. And if there are any um, you know uh, people out there who are wondering what TCM can do for them, um, please give it a chance.
Yes.
Do explore it, and do try it out. Don't hold back and wonder if it will help. I would encourage them to get a consultation with Dr. Wu, and I'm sure they will see, it'll pay back richly. I'm confident. Yeah.
Beautifully said, Pavithra. Thank you so much for sharing this awesome experience. And we will give the details of Dr. Wu's website in the caption. Thank you again.
Thanks, Judy. Have a great day.